The Saints ain't a bad team, and we've seen plenty of unexpected results the past couple of weeks in the NFL. So anytime you can go on Thursday night, get over the funk of playing on a Thursday night in a short week, win a game on the road against a decent team. The Saints aren't bad. They aren't great. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I mean, they're in the running, I guess, for the NFC South. That was an important game for them last night. They were 3-3, and they could have moved into at least a share of first place, but now they're behind Atlanta and behind Tampa. But that NFC South is kind of a mess. But look, they're on the road with a team that they feel like they're battling for their division lead. And so Jacksonville gets the win last night. They're 5-2, and now they get some time off before they have to get back in action. But I think clearly they're the best team in the AFC South, and they'll be a factor in the playoffs. We'll see. So there you go. And then this weekend, of course, in college football, Kansas, I mentioned, is off. So Nate doesn't care, and he won't pay attention to anything else. But I will. We'll be here for you, ready to roll, as Kansas State takes on TCU. That's at 6 o'clock in Manhattan at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I don't know how the quarterbacks are going to play out. People asked me last night, what's going to happen with the K-State quarterbacks? My dentist, Dr. Hake, had me in the chair, had a drill in my mouth. Whoa. And was asking me about he's a K-State guy. He goes, what do you think about these quarterbacks? I'm like, I don't know. I think you're younger. The young kid, and he said, I don't understand what you're saying. We'll have to wait until after this to talk about this. I said, okay. So, we'll find out. And then, of course, for the Missouri Tigers, I got to get over this. This game has me very nervous because it's all. I could have a wonderful 2 weeks as a Mizzou fan if they can just get past South Carolina at 2:30 p.m. for homecoming in Columbia. Why, you ask? Because if they beat South Carolina, they should move up in the rankings. They're number 20 in the nation right now. And if they beat South Carolina, they have a bye week coming up. So they'll be sitting on 7-1 overall and 3-1 in the conference with 2 weeks until the big road game at Georgia. And in 2 weeks, maybe some more teams lose in front of them. And who knows? I mean, it's not – if they can win Saturday and then they chill for 2 weeks, it's not crazy that they could be top 15. Things happen ahead of them. I don't know. But they'll clearly be top 20. They ain't going to fall. And then Georgia will await in 2 weeks. And just the build-up to that. And look, would I expect them to go down and beat Georgia? No. But, I mean, crazier things have happened. I mean, that's why they play the games, right? I could talk myself into. I can tell you what, I can talk myself into being super excited for that game. But they got to get past South Carolina, and South Carolina has a very good offense. They have a very good quarterback, no matter what Lebo says. Spencer Rattler's pretty damn good. They have a pissed-off coach that broke his foot in anger after losing a 2-point game to Florida. And again, I remind you, South Carolina, their record's partially a product of their schedule early on. They played North Carolina in the non-con. North Carolina's good. They lost by 2 touchdowns. They've already had to go to Georgia. They lost 24-14. There ain't no shame in losing by 10 points at Georgia. They've already had to play at Tennessee. Guess what? Most teams in the nation would lose at Georgia and at Tennessee, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of teams would have 2 losses by going to Georgia and to Tennessee. And then their other 2 losses are to North Carolina and Florida. I mean, it's, there's nothing there. Oh, that's a terrible team. You got a bad loss on your record. Now, who they beat? Furman and Mississippi State. So they don't have a good loss, a good win on their record. They don't have a bad loss. They don't have a good win. So, I mean, you can massage things and say, if they would have had things flipped over and if they would have had, a game against Vanderbilt and a game against Kentucky instead of the Georgia and Tennessee game, maybe they're 4-2. Maybe they're feeling good. So it's all about who you play and when you play them. But they can't put up points. And like I said, they just lost a 41-39 shootout with Florida. So they're a dangerous team. And it just feels like Shane Beamer doesn't like Mizzou. And there's something there. I don't know. You see podcasts when he talks about there's a certain coach out there that he'd like to fight, and his wife told him they can't lose to this coach anymore. I don't know. People speculate that he's talking about Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz. I don't know, but I know Mizzou won at South Carolina last year, and the Mizzou-South Carolina series has been very interesting and at times very dramatic. And so I will take nothing for granted, but I'll be locked in and very excited to watch this game. And either way, even if they were to lose, I mean, I'd still be excited, to go watch them go play at Georgia. But, I mean, just think about how much that could be built up even more, and just think how exciting it would be for them to go ahead and get the over 6.5, like right now, and not have to worry about it before they go to Georgia. And I've already won. I mean, wouldn't you like to get the over before Halloween? Isn't that something we all aspire to do? I mean,
well, it's certainly something that's important to you.
I think it's important to a lot of people. I feel like.
Yeah.
Not just me.
Well, people that have more than a rooting
interest. People that care.
Right.
So, let's go. Maybe Shane Beamer will get mad and break his other foot after the game. I don't know.
That would be a bad idea.
You got a temper,
He's passionate.
And then you got Sporting Kansas City with a chance to go to the postseason.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, big game tomorrow night. There we go. Thank you.
He called that on me. Like, you son of a gun. I don't know why you're not excited about Sporting.
Oh, I'm beyond fired up to be on the call for this game tomorrow night.
Beyond fired up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even more than fired up. Whatever the next level is past fired up. That's what I am.
Tell everyone what time everything is.
So the game will kick off just after 8 o'clock Central Time. Every single game in the Western Conference will kick off at the exact same time. The refs have to synchronize their watches and all that.
Chaos!
There are 5 teams playing for the last 2 spots in the Western Conference playoffs.
Have we figured out some kind of parlay that Marco can get involved with, where he can
get involved in
all? It all happens
all,
at the same time, and you're not waiting for staggered game times. You're all it's all right there in real time, and it's all just.
You think Marco's ready for that kind of action? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you get back in it.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine Apple TV will be doing some type of back and forth.
Well, Apple TV has a kind of a red zone knockoff type of show
about
called
Whip Around.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called MLS 360. And so see 360 degrees. They'll be showing all the games, but what we'll be doing on our broadcast is just showing you the highlights from the other 3 games that are relevant to Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota. Because you got 5 teams playing for the last 2 playoff spots. The only 2 teams out of those 5 that are playing against each other are the game that we're doing here in Kansas City, Minnesota and SKC.
That's too many teams for the playoff spots.
That's right.
They can't all make
it. It's like musical chairs, except for there's only 2 seats and there's 5 people dancing around those chairs. Imagine that.
Right.
But what we know is that Sporting and Minnesota both have got to win to have a chance, which means they'll be going for it. All the people that go, I don't like all these ties in soccer. Well, nobody does well with a tie. A tie is a loss for both of these teams, so they got to go for it.
I hate ties. I never wear ties. My neck's too big.
Yeah. You're a double Windsor guy, single Windsor guy?
No, my neck's too big.
Yeah, you don't
I
like
can barely
tie.
find a shirt that buttons to much less get a tie. And then I'm, like, hey.
Yeah.
Hi.
Can't do it.
No. Ridiculous.
Feels like it's choking you out.
Open shirt.
Yeah. Show a little bit of that chest hair.
A lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what time, what channel?
MLS Season Pass on Apple TV at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And there's going to be the whole Eastern Conference is leading up to that. They've got a lot of great stuff going on over there. Their games will kick off, I believe, around 5:30. But our game will kick off just after 8 o'clock. So
maybe
Tony Meola's in town. I got to see him for a little bit yesterday.
Maybe a little later on the show, we'll build Marco's parlay and see how he can enjoy this at the next level. We will take a break. Back after this on WHB. Welcome back to the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'd love to remind you that if you're looking for something fun to do this weekend, I will be live at The Beast down in the West Bottoms tomorrow night, Saturday night, from 6 until 9. 6 to 9. See that? The Beast. Haunted house down in the West Bottoms. I will be there from 6 until 9.
6 to 9.
Right. Very exciting. The Beast is awesome.
Woo!
If you want to come down there with friends or family or kids or whatever, kcbeast.com for more information, and you can even get tickets online and be prepared. kcbeast.com. The Beast Haunted House, one of the greatest haunted attractions in the nation. I will be there. I think my wife's going to go. I think my daughters and perhaps their a couple of friends might go. So we'll see what happens. It's The Beast. Saturday night with me from 6 until 9 right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right?
All right.
Mecole Hardman's back, and I'm very happy about that. And Mecole Hardman spoke to the media. He had a lot of different things to say, a lot of comments, and Nate's wearing his Mecole Hardman shirt. And I listened to this press conference, and especially if you ever talked to Mecole Hardman or listened to some of his interviews in the past, you certainly tell there's a change in his I don't want to say his personality, but maybe his attitude, right? Mm-hmm. And he talked a lot about, and we can play these comments later, but I didn't think this was the headline. He talked about when he was asked about, as he talked to Matt Nagy and Andy Reid about the plans for him or how they're going to use him. He several times he's very adamant. He said, I just want to do whatever I can to help the team, return punts, I'll return kickoffs, line up a receiver, whatever they need me to do. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be a distraction. If they need me on Sunday, whatever they need me to do, that's what I want to do. So he had some great comments, and that's what you want to hear him say, right? And look, they might need him to return punts, and they might need him to do this and do that. Kind of a utility guy, do a little bit of everything. But, coming back with the right attitude. And when you go someplace else and they don't use you and you don't feel comfortable and you don't fit in, then coming back home where you do fit in, that'll give you that attitude adjustment. Like, okay, you know what? I'm back where they need me. I'm back where they want me. I'm back where they know what I can do, what my strengths are, and how they're going to use me. Because the Jets had no idea. Whatever. Okay? And they asked him about the Jets. He's like, I'm not going to say anything bad about the coaching staff. And he said some good things about Aaron Rodgers. He said all the right things, Didn't throw anyone under the bus. We've talked about these tweets where he's been a little defensive in the past about being called injury prone. And I get it, because he had last season, he had the issues with what we thought was an abdominal injury and was out for the regular season, tried to come back in the AFC Championship game, was clearly in a lot of pain and left that game and then ended up leaving Kansas City. And this tweet from October 11th, I can't wait till I get a chance to really tell y'all what I really want to tell y'all. And this don't got nothing to do with my current situation either. That was when he was with New York. So it feels like now this was the second part of that tweet, what he wanted to tell people. And he really hasn't talked about it. It was kind of a mysterious injury, what we thought was some type of abdominal injury, right? Mm-hmm. Here is, I don't know who was asking the question, but somebody asked about this, and man, did he give an answer. And he gave a couple of answers. It went on for a while, and I think it's important to listen to this. Here's Mecole Hardman yesterday.
Injuries being connected to you, and how you maybe have some frustrations about being connected to injury prone. What do you feel in that regard over these past couple of years, and what do you want people to know just about it?
Yeah, how am I injury prone? I don't understand. First of all, I played 3 years every game. So that right there tells you right there, like, oh, the guy's not injury prone, you know. And I got into my 4th year and got into a freak injury, and that people don't even have no idea about, which, you know, left me hospitalized actually the next day. And people really don't understand. Like, I was in hospital for 10 days. I had literally had no feelings in my leg for 4 days, 4 or 5 days. I couldn't walk for like 4 or 5 days. And then finally got the feeling back in my legs by like the 6th day, and I walked the next 2 days, couple of days, and finally got discharged from the hospital. And then went on a road of recovery, also to get back to playing the NC Championship game, which I was freaking like 65-70%, and end up tearing my groin on that play, the last play I played, which was a blessing in disguise for me, honestly, so I can really have surgery and repair everything, So people saying injury prone, I'll be like, man, listen, I played every game, never had a problem with injury. Of course, it's in this league, you're gonna have knick-knack injuries, but nothing that really kept me out or that I couldn't play through. But that one just so happened to be something I had to actually have surgery and be in the hospital for, that where I couldn't come back and play.
How are you different than when you left here? Sometimes when you step outside an organization, you see a different way of doing things. And is there something that maybe you learned by being away that you're bringing back, or are you faster than you were before? I mean, how are you different coming back?
I think more mature, actually, mentally, going to a different organization for something that you're used to, that you've been used to for 4 years, kind of just show you the difference in, certain situations that you've been in, and how to, approach and do certain things. So I think just mentally, the maturity, I think I've grown at. Definitely learned a lot from Aaron, to be a better receiver and seeing things different ways. So, that's a guy right there that has, a lot of experience, 19 years, I believe he's been in the league. So just learning from him and seeing how he go about things and how serious he is in certain things kind of, teaches you, how to be a better pro as well. So I think I could kind of learn that being over there.
McCole, you think the team last year described it as an abdominal injury. What actually led to being the issue of you going to the hospital? Was it a core muscle injury?
Honestly, I don't know, man. The next day, I finished the game fine. I guess it was against the Titans. I finished the game fine. The next day, I was perfectly fine, and then probably around like 2:30 p.m., 3 o'clock that day, I caught a cramp, like middle cramp, like in my stomach, and didn't really think that much of it. But every hour, it got worse and worse. To the point where I couldn't walk. And that's kind of where it led me to be in the emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, I took my last steps for like 5 days. So the bed that I got in at the emergency room was the bed I was in for 10 days. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of one of those injuries that was like, that we didn't really shed much light on too in last year. It really didn't need to, but now that we're here, like, it's kind of one of them injuries that's like, it makes you think about a lot of things. So I'm just happy to actually be here and, healthy and able to do the things that, I normally was able to do.
Sam, were you at the facility when you go to the ER? I mean, can you kind of take us through where you were when you...
I was at home. Like I said, it was after the game on Monday. It was a Monday, we off on Mondays, and literally my folks just had left. It was just me and my girl. I think my cousin was here as well. I think he was leaving a little later, and literally my girl was going to get some food. I was playing the game. Felt some discomfort, got a cramp. I went to lay down, got up, and literally every hour it got worse and worse. And I called Rick and told him, I said, hey man, something ain't right, I'm hurting. He said, if it get worse, call me back. I called him back like 5 minutes later. It was in tears, like, hey, I can't do this. And he was like, okay. And that's when I got to the ER from my house, and my girl dropped me off. And after that, it was, it started from there.
So, I got a football question, but when they call that, what was the diagnosis?
They said osteitis pubis was with the diagnosis, but I had a few specialists that came out, and each of them had different opinions. They was like, I don't think it's that. They was like, well, it could be, but the way you showing this, and I tell you what, I got a lot of blood taken, for real. Like, I'm talking about tubes. I'm like, bro, what are y'all gonna do with this, But overall, I think they diagnosed it with osteitis pubis.
Not having feeling in your legs, how scary was that?
Oh, scary. It's scary as hell. Like, not being able to move your legs is like one of those things that make you just think, like, is this it? Like, whatever, but then finally, obviously, the feeling came back, and the doctor was very, particularly they'd come back, just give it time. So that kind of gave me a little hope. But I know like the 10 days I was there, I think I slept maybe like 8 hours, 10 hours max. Like I was just so much pain, man, that like I just remember like I think I could get medicine every 2 hours. So I would literally like get medicine and go to sleep for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And now I look at the clock and just watch it go for like the next hour and 40 minutes. And like, as soon as 2 hours here, I'm like, hey, I need some medicine. So definitely one of those low points in my life, but definitely got through it and glad to be here. So.
The football part of it, like the frustration would be, this was like contract year time, right? And you were playing well up to when you got hurt.
Playing great.
I mean, what was that frustration like to have that going on and knowing that this was maybe your chance to cash it?
Yeah, man. I think that kind of hit me hard as well. Just knowing it was the last year contract year, especially the first year Tyreek wasn't here. I thought it was a chance I really can step into a role to really help this team. So yeah, when that happened, that definitely was one of the first thoughts. Like, dang, like man, it's really my chance. But honestly, I kind of look at it as one of those like things happen for a reason. I think I kind of got more like arrogant inside in a sense, but kind of like one of those things. I think God just kind of like just send me down and let me know like I can take this game away from you anytime. So kind of one of those things that you gotta sit back and look at things that you've done and just kind of figure out what you was doing wrong or where it may be. Even though I was playing well, I think God still got this last say so on anything that you do. I think that's kind of what kind of like hit me hard and kind of got closer with him on that side and just kind of lean towards that. Like let's start just play this game for you rather than for myself and what comes with it. So now it's just more so like, man, whatever happens, but I'm just playing this game because I can, because he allowed me to play it and whatever comes along with it comes along with it.
Good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Man, that's some powerful stuff there from Mecole Hardman. We will take a break and talk about it after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB. There's a lot there from Mecole Hardman's comments. You know, I thought he was extremely open and honest, revealing. And he had made enough comments on social media, just kind of, here and there, that he was that people didn't know the real story, and he was not happy that he had been labeled injury prone. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I understand that. It's football. You get injuries, and you think of an injury prone guy that's had multiple injuries, that's never been able to stay out there on the field in his career, and as he described, that wasn't him. He had his fourth year. He dealt with what we now know is some serious stuff.
Yeah.
To hear him talk about calling Rick Burkholder in tears and not knowing what to do and going to the emergency room and losing the feeling in his legs and everything else. And look, that's one of the worst things in the world, I think, when you have something wrong and people can't figure it out. And you're going through multiple tests, because many times you just want to know, like, why is this happening? What's causing this pain, or what's causing me to lose feeling in my legs, or whatever. And then he talked about coming back for the AFC Championship game too soon at 65 or 70% and tearing the groin to the point where he had to have surgery, and that was a blessing because he got everything repaired. I don't know. Bottom line is this. I wanted them to bring Mecole Hardman back. I thought he would be a very useful addition to this offense, like he used to be. He was, and as he said, when Lebo told him you're playing really well before you got hurt, and Mecole Hardman thankfully corrected Todd's smart mouth and said, I was playing great. And he was. 5 touchdowns in those 4 games that led up to his injury. I'm happy that he's back, but now I root for him even more. Mm-hmm. I hope he goes out there and, again, plays great and helps his football team. I would love it. And I hope everyone else gets behind him and roots for him, because it sounded like he went through a hell of a situation and came out the other end better for it. And to hear his comments also just about, some people won't like it, but I do. I enjoyed listening to him talk about his relationship with God and how he was maybe arrogant or whatever in the past, and now understands that, it makes him appreciate what he has. And look, this is true with everyone. God can take it away from you just like that. You can lose your ability to play football at any moment because it's such a physical and such a dangerous and demanding sport. And sometimes you have to go through something like that, as Nate Bukaty and the band Cinderella once said, don't know what you got till it's gone.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Right.
I feel like life, God, whatever you want to refer to it, has a way of humbling you when you feel like you're flying high. At least I know that's been the case in my life a lot of times. It's, when you feel like you got everything figured out and things are going great, you get maybe a little full of yourself. Something has a way of smacking you back down a little bit and making you realize that you're not as in control of everything as you think you are. And hearing him say that, God can take football away from me at any time, that 10 days in the hospital will probably leave a mark on you that changes you for the rest of your life, and probably for the better. So,
or being a world-class athlete, mm-hmm. and then not being able to do the things you've done your whole life.
How much of your identity is tied up into being that world-class athlete, and then you spend 10 days contemplating that identity being completely gone.
Just think if you couldn't talk and have long conversations with people.
Trust me,
what would you do?
I don't know.
You'd go crazy.
I would definitely, God could take my voice away anytime.
By the way.
And a lot of people probably wish he would.
I'll tell you, we were at a function last night. This man was at the highest level of talking. You were commanding a table. You were commanding a room. Yeah, I kept looking over. You were talking. You were pointing. You were explaining. You were making hand gestures.
Mark and I were having a phenomenal conversation about a lot of important things.
Animated.
Yeah.
I heard some soccer in there.
There was a little bit.
Maybe more than a little bit. But I heard some, and at one point my dad goes, well, Nate's really giving that guy hell, isn't he? I said, he is. He was giving, One time you pointed.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that.
I'm a hand talk. I definitely use my hands when I talk.
You were like McCole Hardman in those 4 years. You were scoring touchdowns.
I was amped up. Yeah. Probably needed to be humbled a
right.
little
And
bit.
if you lost that, you'd be humbled.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
See?
Hey, man, I think about all the time, whenever this career gets ripped away from me, what will I be? What will I do?
What have you heard?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. I live in constant fear of that, maybe I shouldn't, but it's the truth.
Yeah, you should.
I actually, I texted my oft referenced wife when I heard McCole say the specific diagnosis.
Kelly is her name.
Kelly Bucati,
Yes.
physical therapist who a couple years ago, I'm very, very proud of her for many reasons. And she got a specialization in physical therapy and pelvic floor health, which really was a journey she went on after suffering pelvic floor injuries because of delivering children. Almost every mother out there, if you're listening and you've had multiple kids, your pelvic floor has had issues, and you might not even know it because it's a part of the body that nobody ever wants to talk about, right? It's your privates, basically.
I love talking about it.
Well,
I don't understand
you like
people.
to talk about people's
Right.
privates
I'll just
a lot.
bring it up in this conversation
How's
with
your pelvic
people.
floor?
Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
right.
you do that. You ask me that almost every week.
More people should do it. Open up, Kansas City. Come
But
on.
it's as Kelly always points out, they're just parts. They're muscle groups, they're ligaments, they're tendons, they're bones, just like every other part of your body. But in the world we live in, we don't talk about those things. And so I texted her and I said, "Hey, have you ever treated this injury?" Because he flat out said exactly what the injury was. So I looked it up, and it's the pubic bone where he's having his issue. And for the record, my wife has not treated this specific injury, but she's treated that muscle group and that joint quite a bit, most of the time in women who've delivered children. And she's told me several times, women aren't the only people that need pelvic floor therapy. A lot of times men suffer pelvic floor injuries and nobody really understands it or figures it out because it's like deep at the core of your privates.
Wow.
And so I was asking her about this injury, and she said, "Oh man, it makes perfect sense why he would have been in so much pain and had such a difficult time walking and all those things." So he's had a pelvic floor injury, and what a miserable situation that must have been for him, and trying to figure out, like, when you don't know what it is and the fear of trying to solve it.
And he pushed himself to come back
Yeah.
to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Clearly, he wasn't ready, and he went out there and got hurt even worse.
Yeah. So I'm like you. Everything I heard yesterday makes me even more excited that he's back, because I think that those experiences in life, when you get humbled a little bit, when you also step outside of a situation that you might take for granted because it's the only one you've known. You can sound a soccer alarm here if you want to, but
There it is.
during the time that Sporting Kansas City was having so much success and winning games and all that, players would leave and go play for another team, and so many of them have come back. Benny Feilhaber, Iko Para, Jacob Peterson, they all work for the club now. When you talk to them, they're like, "Man, I didn't realize how good this organization was until I went to another organization and saw the way they did things." And I feel certain, listening to McCole Hardman yesterday, that I'm sure he knew it was good here. He was winning Super Bowls, but didn't really understand how good it was. Then you go somewhere else, and you have the frustrations he's had.
Maybe Frank Clark got a taste of that in Denver.
I would guess that Frank Clark's gotten a taste of that as well.
Will you take some of my money back so I can leave, please?
But Frank Clark had been in other
Bye-bye.
places, at least,
Right.
before he got to Kansas City. But McCole Hardman, this was the only place he'd ever known. And I think that getting out of that and seeing another organization and then coming back will give him so much perspective in a lot of ways.
And if you want to take it a step further, he went to Georgia.
Yeah.
Pretty
good spot to be.
Pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Like college football player, how many places are better than Georgia? Not many. You go from Georgia to the Chiefs. You're doing pretty well as a football player, right? With those two cultures and those two winning environments, and then you're
in the Jets.
right.
And I actually think
And
the
you're not,
Jets are,
but they're not using you, and
Yeah.
you just don't fit.
Yeah. And also, like, listening to him talk about what he learned from Aaron Rodgers, I actually could see that, because I think Aaron Rodgers seems like a very different type of dude from Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, really?
But also, like in the actual football sense, the way that they run the offense there, the way he sees the game. And I think seeing that kind of perspective also will help him come back as a more educated wide receiver on this is what this quarterback saw. Maybe this is what this quarterback sees. And I don't want to get my hopes up too much. Like I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's going to be wide receiver 1. But I do think that we could see an actually more invigorated McCole Hardman even than the one that we had in the past. And I think most of us would say if he was as productive as he was during his first stint with the Chiefs, I would sign up for that. 700-plus yards, being a good return specialist, big play guy.
Yeah, what he was becoming last year. He was on his way to having his best year.
Hopefully physically everything's good and he's got it all sorted out.
Because that's the question. Mm-hmm. Is that why he was used in New York? That's the only question.
Right.
But as long as he's good physically, you would think that the Chiefs are going to find a way to get good production out of him.
Yeah.
So.
And my hope is that the reason they didn't use him in New York is because they weren't smart enough to figure out the right ways to use him.
That's a shot. We will take a break back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB.